Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of State of the Empire. I am Anthony, although you should hopefully know who I am by now. Of course, it's been a little while since I've put a video out. Shame on me, but shame on Fantasy Flight for making us wait so long for new information. But you know, we actually have more to talk about today than I anticipated, thanks to an article that just came out. And with me again, as always, is Ryan for our second episode. He was with us for episode 1 as well. The resident space terrorist to my galactic bureaucracy that provides safety for the galaxy. So, yeah, as we're the date of this filming is what, the 11th today? Today's May 11th, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, and so we just had some pretty exciting news hit, and you'll see me I'm going to keep glancing down at my phone today for some talking notes. But we had them release an announcement for BOBA FETT as an Imperial operative, as well as the Spec Ops unit for the Imperials being the Scout Troopers on foot, which was a much foreseen thing, I think, for the most part, but just seeing what they can actually do will be exciting. But we just got eyes on that today, and we just started talking about that today. I'm trying to contain most of my thoughts, ideas, and opinions for this video, which I think I've been successful at doing. But we're going to save that till the end, because we have a lot of other things to talk about too. In case you have not seen the first episode of State of the Empire, the whole idea here is that we take some time to just kind of talk about where the game is going, our personal experiences, criticisms, as well as, you know, well-earned praises and things like that. So I have some things here that I've kind of, maybe I'll put this here, that I'd like to talk about, but I don't know if there's anything that you yourself wanted to start with of your own ideas,
let's
or
just
this.
start with the top.
You just want to start at the top?
And I'll throw in some rebel views on certain things.
Right. So the first of our talking points that I just kind of randomly thought up was the idea that, you know, when we did our first video, Veers had not yet been released. No. And so every game as an Imperial player, I hesitate to use the word hamstrung, but you were forced into playing Vader as your only commander.
Oh, and tell me more about being forced to play one commander.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right, but the idea is not for the Imperials. It wasn't like, oh no, we've only got one commander. It was, oh no, we've got one commander, and if you really want to use him properly, he's going to be like 230 points.
Oh no, we've got one commander, and you can either kill him or the army, not both. Where Luke can pretty much just die in one turn. Very easily. Well,
if you play him right, I feel like you won't. I mean, it's not my fault that you got. Did you get like one-shotted on turn 1 in one of your games or something with Luke? Or not one-shotted, but you got like killed in one turn.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I had a Veers list kill Luke first turn, and the ending of the game will surprise you. Clickbait.
Also though, to be fair, you were playing on an extremely kind of I'll use the word stupid board. That was not at all the correct dimensions for what you were supposed to use.
I didn't build the board.
No, but I mean, even like, I think, like, you know, an appropriate 800-point game should be played on a 3x6 table. They were playing on a 4x3.
Yep.
And also it was 800 points, so it's not even like, oh, we're doing a 500-point game. So that was, it was a pretty table. The table was beautiful, but I think we learned some lessons there.
I had a fun game. And
that's true.
Describe that game.
Yes, we're getting ahead of ourselves though. So the whole point of this is that with Veers being released, he allowed for a lot more experimentation because he was so much cheaper. You save 120 points bare bones right away, which is like 2 extra squads of stormtroopers, or 1.5 units of bikes, or depending how you want to run things, right, where you make other cutbacks. But the talking point that I want to address with this is that now it was feasible in a strategic way to make use of an Imperial list that contained 2 ATSTs. And I bought a second one and got it all ready to go just for that exact reason, and I have not regretted it even once. I've played 4 or 5 games with that. I have yet to lose for a variety of different reasons. You were saying to me earlier, though, that you've actually not had an opportunity to play against that yet.
So I haven't fought against 2 ATSTs yet as a Rebel player. I play almost only Imperials too. Like, I don't fight against many.
Yeah, Rebels. You don't tend to do mirror matches that much.
No, but I've fought against Veers. I just haven't fought against 2 ATSTs. The player I was playing against wanted to use more bikes, and then the second list, less bikes, more infantry to use with Veers.
Yeah. But I can't wait for you to tell the story of the swan diving stormtroopers.
So I'll have two really interesting stories when it comes to Veers fighting, but I haven't fought 2 ATSTs yet.
Yes.
I feel as a player, 1 ATST, it doesn't really scare me.
Okay.
I feel like I'm at a point now where, because the Rebels haven't really got anything new yet, I kind of know what to put for my lists, and I kind of know how to take care of dual ATSTs on a technical or a hypothetical level, which is something the Rebels have that the Imperials just have access to now, thanks to Snowtroopers, is ion tokens.
Okay.
Being able to dish those out like candy is super useful as a Rebel player, especially with the ability that their range is further than an ATST's grenade launcher, so that the Rebel troops can generally get their shots off and start that ion chain before they can really get going.
Yeah.
2 ATSTs, however, makes it a little more challenging because you can, if one unit moves up to attack 1, the second ATST can retaliate, and it kind of makes it trickier to not.
And then, of course, specifically with Veers, has benefits to some of those vehicles, such as the dodge tokens.
So far, what I've noticed as a Rebel player is if I'm playing an Imperial player who's going more armor, I'll tend to outnumber them in infantry, and Luke can kill 2 squads of stormtroopers easily. Especially if the ATSTs are a little busy or concerned. So I find even playing against 1 ATST with Vader is sort of similar to playing against Veers with 2 ATSTs in the sense that the Imperials will have less stuff on the table.
But handing out those aim tokens with Veers is so dope as well, because it really allows your ATSTs to have freedom of maneuverability, because, I mean, you're getting a lot of dice when you attack with them. But I find personally, for whatever reason, I just can't roll well for attacking with my ATSTs. So I usually want to get that aim in there. And so for me now, playing with Veers, I've been presented with opportunities to either say, well, Veers is giving out those aim tokens, so I'm free now to move up into position and then fire and still get my aim going, which is great. And then alternatively, what will happen after that is like, okay, well, my ATSTs are in great firing lanes. I don't need to move them. So that means I'm either going to double aim and fire, letting me reroll 4 dice, even rerollable, right? Or alternatively, grab a dodge token and aim and fire.
So as someone who fights against ATSTs, one of the things, they're either one of 2 things that are going to happen is the ATST is going to stand still, aim and shoot, at which point you can outmaneuver it pretty easily, I find. Especially with things like snowspeeders, walkers, Luke, etc. However, Veers has made it so that an ATST can move, aim, and shoot in the same turn. Now that's scary, especially because they can move into grenade launcher range.
Well, especially when there's 2 of them. And it's like, 22 points of armor? Like, that's
22 points. White dice to surge, so, a 1 in 3 chance is still bigger than most people think is white dice with
it helps every point that you get rid of is like, oh, now rather than having 9 points to chew through, you've got 10, and with that armor you're only really getting a couple per turn.
Generally what that means is if I'm shooting at it, a couple hits will get through, the armor will stop 1. A couple hits will get through, the armor will stop 1. It just makes it such a slugfest to get rid of the ATS.
Unless you really, really, really bring the proper equipment and focus fire, that ATS is gonna do its job, because you would have to, like, with 11 health, you're averaging about 2 damage getting through per turn to kill it by the end of the game. But that's not a good objective to have. Your objective would be to kill it by turn 3, which is incredibly difficult to do, because if it's sticking around more than half the game, it's doing exactly what it needs to do. That's the thing.
And I think this is where something, and I know this is something you mentioned to me the other day, is people aren't playing no one's talking about the objectives enough. Right?
No, no.
So when I see a list, it's like, okay, you have 2 ATSTs and Veers. Veers isn't going to do much because he's going to be busy supporting the army.
That's right.
He might pop off a couple shots here and there, but he's going to keep distance or he's going to die. The ATSTs are going to be busy fighting. So as if you're running dual ATSTs, chances are your point bid is almost non-existent.
Correct.
You're going to have one point maybe.
Although that was the thing that kept popping up as a surprise is these, people will come and I'll say, well, what's your point bid? And they'll say, oh, I'm at, 795. And I'll be like, well, I actually have a 7-point bid.
And I've honestly been playing with a 15-point bid almost every game. And I don't regret it because it means I'm going to be blue player and I'm going to veto the objectives that best help the enemy. And I run infantry heavy lists, so I'm all about getting those objectives.
Yeah.
For me, fighting is a secondary thing in the game.
Well, this was like something that came up in the Facebook global group where someone had mentioned like, I don't really get the point of elevation to the game and that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, it's up to you though to make use of it. Like, one, you should have table appropriate terrain for this game. There should be elevation, whether it be a high cliff or a treetop village or a downed AT that had, you know what I mean? Like, there should be something like that. But then what you do is you say, okay, well, then what I'm going to do is arm all of my troops with grappling hooks, and then I'll make sure that there's a game like intercept the transmission or priority supplies or whatever it's called. And when I'm placing mine, I'm going to put them in high places, which means my troops will have an easy time getting there, and you will either take casualties or it'll be slow going or whatever. So, I mean, there's a level of strategy that exists outside of just what you do when it's your turn.
Yeah. And this is why I'm really excited for things like commandos, because I've been hearing a lot of talk about people not waiting to be able to use snipers or kit them out for combat stuff. It's like, for me, Scout 2, grappling hooks, gear to kit them out to survive and grab objectives.
Yeah.
End of the game, the enemy's going to say, I've basically almost tailed me with like, well, my commandos took all the objectives. So
yeah. And that's happened a couple times. Like with this, I should say that with this 2 ATST list that I've been running, yes, I've won every time, but it hasn't been like and I stomped the enemy into dirt and it was a tabling.
No.
Like there were times where I'd be ending the game with like Veers and an ATST and like 2 units of stormtroopers that are down to 3 men apiece kind of thing. I don't have a lot of minis left, but the bottom line is that they have not only played the objectives, but on top of that, you just deal out so much damage. It's kind of like when a guy walks into a bar and he looks all cut up and you're like, oh, geez, what happened to you? And he says, well, you should see what the other guy looks like, you know? It's that kind of a situation as well. But yeah, in terms of playing the 2 ATSTs, I love it. It has a huge psychological factor within the game because they're imposing models. They have imposing stat lines. They're difficult to kill. And I tend to run mine in a minimalistic way with a very specific role. So, and if you're in the Facebook group, I have posted my list there. But basically, I tend to run them with a singular upgrade, which is just the concussion grenade launcher, with the idea in my head that 2 ATST main cannons is pretty good for anti-vehicle fire, not to mention that there's an additional 2 DLTs hiding in the list somewhere, right? So that's a decent amount of impact that's been getting thrown around, and I have gone up against armor-heavy lists like 3 ATRTs, 2 of the air speeders, that kind of stuff. I'm not finding an issue there. But what I specifically wanted to do was create these machines that would basically walk forward, and they could pick infantry units and just cripple them because blast no cover.
Yeah.
You know, and with Rebels rolling white dice.
I haven't seen just crippling. Like, generally, that just
if
pick a squad and you remove it.
That's right. I mean, a full 6-man squad, that's hard to win. You have to have good rolls.
4 to 5 with an aim token. Grenade launchers, they're gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's been pretty brutal. But we've talked about the dual ATSTs.
Yes.
But Veers as a whole, what do you think of them?
Yeah, Veers is great for, I'll just kind of like rapid fire the reasons why I think he's great, and if you want to kind of pick any of them open into discussion topics. But, you know, he's cheaper, which allows for more flexibility with the rest of your list. With the ability to command at range 4 because of commanding presence, that's cool. The ability to hand out aim tokens is extremely useful, especially when you've got, even if it's just troops around you, it's like, oh no, my guys are suppressed and I'm only going to get 1 action this turn. It's like, well, you can just fire and I'll give you that aim token. And then other than that, he himself sometimes is clutch. And so the story I'll tell for that one is, there was an enemy ATST, and Veers at this point was just going to fire. And the fact that he's throwing 3, the fact that he has sharpshooter, the fact that he can reroll 3 on an aim with his precision ability, and the fact that he surges to crit. Basically, he's going to throw his 3 dice, and I have more than once gotten all 3 of those dice to come up as crits in the long run, which is amazing.
So base, he has a 25% chance of critting. With each dice, because he effectively has 2 crit pips. On an 8-sided dice. And the ability to reroll all 3 dice I'm no math genius. I don't know the numbers, but it's probably pushing it somewhere near the 30% mark, maybe a little more.
Yeah.
Because of rerolls. So he's actually pretty effective at getting crits. Like, you're guaranteed, at least statistically speaking, like a crit each attack, maybe more.
No, he's really nice.
So he's not to be underestimated.
No, absolutely not.
The big thing.
And like the environmental gear is actually, I mean, I haven't had course to use it yet, but I'm starting to mull it over in my mind a little bit, where there's times there's like, I need viewers over here, but there's this bloody river in the way, and now I'm not going to get there. It's
and I think that speaks a lot to like how we should design tables too. Like when we have forests, should forests be difficult terrain?
Yeah, and we've waffled back and forth on that a little bit, right?
And I think with things like grappling hooks and environmental gear, the fact that environmental gear exists, I think tells us that we should put more difficult terrain in the game.
Agreed.
To give a bonus to the players who give that. So it's not just targeting scopes auto.
No, absolutely. I think that this game, without them explicitly saying so, I think that with the rules they're putting forward and the gear they're putting forward, is that it is implied that terrain should be a huge piece of this game. And terrain is always important in tabletop war games. We know that we're putting down 7 to 8 pieces in a game of Kings of War, and we know how spaced out they should be and how much line of sight blocking it should be. We know in 40K that there should be lots of line of sight blocking and lots of tight corners and that kind of stuff. But with Legion, though, it's specifically because it literally is busting you down a move tool. It's creating cover. It's slowing you from get to objectives, this is a very objective-heavy game. So I think that that plus the vertical element and grappling hooks, environmental gear, that they're really pushing to say terrain should be...
Yeah, well, and they kind of did it in phases too, which makes me wonder if the commandos and scouts are going to come out with some neat stuff.
Some toys,
Yeah, because the first release comes out and it says grappling hooks. Get height 1 plus terrain.
Yes,
Because here is an upgrade that gives you a bonus to interacting with terrain.
That,
and more reasons why you should take grappling hooks in a bit. And then the next one is environmental gear. Here's a thing that says you do not get slowed by difficult terrain, saying that you should put more difficult terrain in this game because it should be a big deal that you are spending.
It should be a hard decision where your guys go, right?
And if the game is too wide open, like if your table is wide open, let me rephrase that. There should be no one upgrade, whether it be scopes, environmental gear,
just an auto,
grappling hook. Because right now, the way that I see a lot of tables set up, it's scopes. If I have the points, I'll take scopes. It should be like, no, I have the points. Do I take scopes? I'll give scopes to my DLT unit because they're a long-range unit. I'll give environmental gear to my stormtroopers with concussion grenades and like go for infantry and cover. And I'll give grappling hooks to my guys with the rocket launcher so they can get a good position or something.
Yeah, that's the thing. See, and that's a good combination of equipment where you say, okay, here's my unit of 5 stormtroopers, no heavy weapons, but I've given them all concussion grenades and environmental gear, so they can willy-nilly just run around and huck grenades at guys.
Well, not only that, but like go grab objectives that are in difficult terrain, chuck grenades to get the enemy out of cover as the enemy's defending.
Yeah, the combinations are huge and
so I think that's
exciting.
I think you're right in the terms of it's like Fantasy Flight saying, guys, you should probably put.
And this
terrain.
Is the thing: if I have a big complaint with the game right now, it's that I still love the rule set. I mean, I think there's been a couple things that it's like, well, we have to wait for official word, but they're kind of no-brainers in how they work, and I'm not going to let that bother me. However, I would love it if they were to release some kind of thing in the RRG that was, okay, here's an additional section that really just addresses terrain a bit more. Here's what the typical, here's what we typically expect for how many pieces should be on the board. Here's how much should be line of sight blocking. Here's how much should be difficult. Here's how much should be, yada, yada, yada. And it's hard because there have been no real FFG run tournaments or events yet for Legion, and I'll be curious to see how the officials set up their tables.
I think they should take a kind of executive decision to compartmentalize terrain. Like, you can have barricades, and that's a type of terrain. Barricades being like waist high, Gears of War-esque things to take cover behind for troops. Height 1 terrain. Height 2 terrain, height 3 terrain, and basically height 3 currently would be nothing can fly on it. So there's stuff that can jump height 1. There's stuff that can do height 2 with the speed, Rebel Speeder and now Boba. So it means stuff can interact with height 2. Then you can have height 3. Nothing can get on that. You have to go around it. Speeders can crash into it. So it means that there are choices to make, right?
Yeah.
And height 2 terrain can be height 1 and a height 2 so that grappling hooks can go up.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think they need to
Well, like we have a piece of terrain right now at our game store, that's the Maasai Temple.
Yeah.
And that is built in a step where no one's really taken advantage of that
There's
yet.
been no reason to, right?
Yeah.
I think if we forced some objectives in there, like
exactly.
if we built it in a way that put objectives on
I find that every time I've played with that piece of terrain, every time the objective winds up being key position. So it's like, well, as long as you're on the train, you capture it.
Yeah, you know what? That makes sense.
Yeah.
But going back to Veers, from the perspective of someone who's had to fight Veers, the new hotness for Imperials, I played quite a few games against Veers, and I find that players using him, at least that I've fought against, are falling into a couple traps.
Okay.
They're used to Vader. Veers is not as tough as Vader.
No.
I have, Veers is there, I will shoot him to death. Or if Luke gets in a range, just chops him in half.
Yeah.
Especially if he's son of Skywalker's, he might overkill him abundantly.
Absolutely overkill.
And Luke has the distance to close it
if
they're not careful. The snow speeder, aim and shoot, dead. That's been a no. That one's been fun. Or they see, okay, he is weak. I'm going to surround him with a bubble of infantry so he doesn't die. It's like, cool. Now Veers isn't moving because he's afraid of moving close. None of those troops that can capture objectives are moving either. I'm happy with that. You know why? I'll exchange fire with them in heavy cover and stay as long distance as possible and make Veers cower with his bunker. And I've had a player say, oh, well, Veers, you're not going to be able to kill Veers. I'm like, okay, you're not going to capture any objectives. Have fun.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And then the ATST came up alone to fight and got surrounded and ignored. So there's been those two. And using his bombard.
Yeah, the maximum firepower card.
Too soon, too quickly, or too, I want to use this because I want to hurt that unit. It's like, yeah, but you didn't use it effectively.
Well, I find a lot of times I wind up using it turn 1 for 2 reasons. One, not a lot of players are using 1 pip cards in the first turn, so I'm getting the first turn.
Yeah.
And I like that because you have to give your command token to Veers, which takes 1 unique token out of your pile, and on top of that, that means I'm going to go with Veers first. I'm going to hand out my aim tokens to my ATSTs, and then I'm going to pick either a small unit of infantry or a vehicle, and I'm going to maximum firepower it, potentially killing or maiming something on turn 1. But for me, the other thing is you have to remember that weapon profile that he attacks with is range 4+.
Yeah.
And sometimes even after just turn 1, like once you're into turn 2, there's a lot of targets you might want to pick that are now too close to actually use it against, right? Because it's a big range,
What I think it's funny that you say who's going to play a Pip 1 when it's Veers Leia. Both are going to play the bombard cards
that's
first turn, and it's going to be pretty funny.
And well, that's the other thing too is, as you've always noted, it's like Luke is the one rebel unit that has red dye, and it's like I personally don't like the idea or trying to throw all my eggs into the basket of let's try and get Luke off the table in 1 turn by focusing. It's like I don't want to do that. I don't like that. No. But when you've got something like Leia around, that's more doable. If you catch her in the open and maximum firepower and ATST her, she will likely die.
Yep. And the one game I played where Luke died first turn, what happened was I had Luke and my whole army.
And he was in a trench,
And he was in a trench, so he had cover.
Yeah, heavy cover.
Yeah, heavy cover. But Veers bombarded him. The ATST bombarded him.
Yeah.
2 units of speeder bikes raced forward and shot at him. DLTs, everything the Imperial player had went into him. Luke died. I discarded my entire hand of Luke's cards.
All 3 of them.
Didn't even get to use 1. And I said, all right, I'm going to show you how I'm going to beat you the rest of the game. Because everything of his was out of position. Nothing had prepped for objectives. So for the rest of his game, he was being flanked, caught out of cover, because nothing was in cover because they went forward as far as possible to get Luke.
Right.
Because he's like, I killed Luke first turn. You lose half your hand. And I was like, I don't know why you're so excited about it. Your whole army's out of position. Like you know the Batman Begins movie where You sacrificed good footing for a killing blow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what he did. He sacrificed good footing for a killing blow. Luke died, but then I tabled him.
Yeah.
I tabled him without a commander.
Yeah.
Because everything was caught out of position. I went for the objectives, and when he went to come take the objectives, he was met with a trap, which was units of infantry on standby. So he moved out of cover, got shot. The second game I played was Veers bunkering up on a building.
Right.
And he couldn't get objectives. And so what happened was, when he realized it was breakthrough, like, oh no, I got to race my infantry across the board, I told him, well, if you just use your full turn to clamber down, you're never going to make it to my side of the board. So he said, all right, they're going to aim for the bushes. A full unit of stormtroopers jumped off a building. He rolled his armor saves, all blanks. And surges, but all dead. And a second unit jumped, and half of them died. So 2 units just went dead. And Veers is standing on a building by himself. And he's like, oh, no one's left to protect Veers. I said, I'm not going to shoot at Veers. I'm going to hide all my guys in the corner of the table on your edge and score 4 breakthrough points to your 1.
Yeah.
So that's what it is again.
You think what I'm thinking? Aim for the bushes.
But as a whole, it's been it hasn't been as challenging as I thought, and I feel almost relieved that I'm not fighting Vader so much, because Vader was so much more stressful.
Vader couldn't really be ignored.
No,
you
Veers can be ignored.
Yeah, Veers wants to be ignored.
Yes,
Veers does not want you to focus on him so that he can basically sit back and say, I'm ensuring that guys don't panic. I'm ensuring that people have aim tokens. I'm using my special cards. That's what he wants to do, right? He's not as much as they kind of portray him in the FFG article, it's like, oh, lead from the front. It's like, well, yes, he can take esteemed leader, so guys take hits for him, and yes, he rolls a red defense dice, but in all honesty, like, with 5 health, you don't, although it can be funny, though, with that Imperial Discipline card, which is a phenomenal card, 3 pip, Veers and 2 other units get to recover for free, and then they get their 2 actions. So I was playing a game with hostile environments where you cannot recover suppression unless you're touching a piece of terrain, and Veers was in the open, and he had like 4 suppressions tokens on him by the end of the 3rd turn or something.
Cusp of breaking.
And so it was, okay, here's my card, Imperial Discipline. Veers clears all suppression, and he's just good to go again now. And that was really funny too. So it's neat. Sometimes you see some of the cards, you're just like, yeah, I mean, that's cool, I guess.
Use it to reload the rocket
whatever.
launcher.
But then when it comes into play, and you're like, oh, that's so clutch. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's been good. I don't know. Do we want to talk about his counterpart now that she's been spoiled, like the rest of it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's only really 1 card no one had seen it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have her yet, so you don't have any play experience with her to kind of say what that feel of that is like.
But everyone has had a chance to discuss everything. I just want to note that last card, her 3 pip card, which is after she activates, another rebel unit
that's already gone, right?
No, with a face-up card. So she can issue an order to herself and 2 others. So you issue an order to herself, and you pick a guy who you want to go immediately after her. So
2 activations on a turn.
Yeah, 2 activations, which is huge. So you can throw that out there. You put 1 on her. You put 1 on Luke. You save them for last if they're in a good position. You activate her. You activate Luke. Next turn, Son of Skywalker. And you're getting that 1 pip card immediately after. I think it's awesome because it says that Leia and Luke can go exact same time. Leia and Han can go exact same time. And you've got 2 beefy heroes, because Leia's no slouch in combat.
Right.
If anything, I prefer her over Veers. She hits harder, but at closer range. That's her deficit, is she gets 2 black dice. But she ignores cover 2 and has
she basically has a holdout blaster.
Yeah, she says like those 2 stormtroopers are gonna die.
Yeah.
Whereas Veers is like, I'm throwing out tons of suppression.
Well, see, and that's one of the things that I really like about Legion as a game in comparison to a lot of other tabletop games where your heroes, you can have these big scary heroes like Luke, like Vader, where they're tanking and they're going in and really shredding things up. Yeah. But by and large, like, heroes are about the benefits they give to their army as opposed to being these monstrous units. You know what I mean? Which I really appreciate because you play a tabletop war game and it's a tabletop war game. It's not hero arena.
It's not a MOBA.
Yeah, exactly. You really took the resemblance. What's the one people play all the time? League of Legends. This is not League of Legends, right?
Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, exactly.
Dota
exactly.
2.
It's really just about. You want to play armies, you want to play lots of units, and when you have those really cool centerpiece leaders, it's like, wow, Darth Vader's in this game, that's really cool, and yes, he can muck stuff up, but you know what else you can do? Master of Evil, suppress all the enemy. Indomitable, he gets to go twice.
Well, think about it like this. In a game of chess, the queen is the most powerful piece on the table, but it can die just as easily.
That's
if
exactly
it's caught out of position.
Yeah.
Or
it's about how you use it, right?
I will say with Leia and Veers on the topic that there is something I'm a little disappointed about with Fantasy Flight, and that's been their release schedule. Right. And I hope it's not a continuing trend because as a Rebel, if I was playing Imperials, I'd be like, oh, this is great. I get Veers, new toy. As a Rebel player, it's like I feel no motivation to play right now because I'm just doing the same thing.
Right.
And the Imperials get access to a new toy to counter what
I'm already doing.
Yeah.
So I think that two things I'll say on that is that one, first off, the idea that Veers was released by himself was weird and dumb and lame, and that Snowtroopers were like 2 weeks after the fact. I'm pretty sure that was a shipping error. Like, I don't mean for us specifically here.
So, the intention was to release Veers and Snowtroopers at the same time. A month later.
But I think that's what you. But I think that's just what it's going to be, and I think it'll alternate though. I don't think you're going to be like, okay, Imperial release a month later, Rebel release a month later, Imperial. I think it's going to be Imperial release. We got our toys first. Yours are still coming, but I bet you that you're going to see then Han and those Commandos come out before we see Boba.
That's even worse though, like because as a Rebel player, I'm like, cool, I get Leia and Han back to back. And then what's going to happen is then Imperial player gets one, then Imperial player gets another one, and for those 2 months, one side's going to feel.
But I mean, I'll also say too, though, that it feels that way now because there's so few things. I think that once, like, think of it like this: like you and I both play Armada, and of course I was in it when it first started. You didn't get there till a little after, so I remember when Armada first started. It was like, well. We have a Victory Star Destroyer, we've got the Fighter Pack, and we've got
Nebulon being a course.
I think the Gladiator actually was one of the earlier ones to come out. And I'm just like, okay, well, I guess that's what it is. And you play a couple games, you're like, that's all, and then the release schedule is slow and all that kind of stuff. However, you look at Armada now, and it's like the selection is so wide.
When Armada release stuff, it's Star Destroyer.
Yeah, it was at the same time.
If you're gonna do Veers, I think it should be Veers Leia, Snowtroopers, Fleet Troopers. So both of them get access to the same new type of option at the same time and to get used to it.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you, but I think that it's probably less of a game thing and more of a corporate cash flow thing. Yeah. I think it's more of like, there's lots of people who collect both and we don't want to just put it all at the same time. We'll get a cash burst here and we'll get a cash burst at the end of the month or a month later.
Either way, I think it's hurting their growth.
Yeah,
because from a business standpoint, I mean, both of us are business people.
Yes.
We both have our own businesses, and the way I see it is the game had so much hype coming out, and then they released a whole bunch of articles teasing stuff for the future, and then there's this big stall of what people have access to. So it's like, I've used my Rebel Troopers over and over and over and over again because I can either give them a Z6 or an ion cannon. And me personally, I hate Z6s, so I'm going to give them an ion cannon or I'm going to keep them a tiny unit.
Yeah.
So I've been playing the same list since day one.
One thing I'll say though too is that it is nice to have a monthly release schedule. Like that's like when you look at games like X-Wing and Armada, like their releases are months apart.
Armada's once a year.
Yeah, pretty much. But so with a game like this where they're going to say every month you'll see something new, and the longest that you'll have to go without having the meta change right now is 4 weeks. Like, to a certain extent, I understand the frustration, and I'm right there with you. But to a certain extent, it's also like, at what point do we become spoiled gamers?
Well, no, it's it's every 2 months you get something different.
If they
Your
do
faction.
what I was saying.
Yeah.
If they wind up going with that 1 and 1 and then the same and then 1 and then the same and then 1.
But you know what? Maybe they'll no 2 months because Imperial, Rebel, Imperial. So you get this. There's a month gap, and then you get at the end of this month.
Yeah.
So there's 2 months.
Yeah, I mean,
like either way, maybe they're testing this out because they didn't do it with the other one. Because correct me if I'm wrong in X-Wing, but for X-Wing, it's like wave is one of each. So maybe they're trying something new.
And I think that they are, because that's what people have been used to with Fantasy Flight, the idea of waves, where it was like when a wave comes out, like all faction stuff is released simultaneously and it represents like a new era of the game.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, I think because it's a brand new game, like where you're working with armies, but they're only putting out one unit at a time. Like you look at games like let's take it back all the way to Warhammer Fantasy. It was like you had your library of guys. You know, you had that. You had like a dozen or so units to pick from.
Yeah.
With this, we've got what, 4 right now?
Luke, troops,
Walker,
AT-RT, flyer.
So 4.
4.
Yeah.
And you have 5 right now. 6, sorry, because Snowtroopers.
Because Snowtroopers now, yeah. But
it's like a whole third more.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, we're the good guys, so we deserve that.
And I understand, I get it, because Empire is probably statistically the most played faction currently. It's the most iconic. Like a Rebel is just a guy in a shirt with a gun, and a Stormtrooper and Vader and an AT-ST. They're like so iconic, so Star Wars. So I get it.
Yeah.
But then when things like Wookiees come out, that's when you want
you really want those Wookiees, eh?
Yeah.
What if they don't?
I think we're gonna see Lando Operative next, or Chewie Commander.
Yeah.
Or maybe Chewie Operative.
So here's an idea. Here's a question for you though. Do you think that now they say okay, and so to evenly weight things, we now release or we now preview next a Rebel Operative with a new Rebel unit, or do you say, well, they did release Boba Fett, and Scout Troopers, but Boba Fett's not a commander, and the Rebels have 3 commanders, the Imperials have 2, so maybe next we'll do an Imperial commander.
Yeah, I think they'll do an Imperial commander next, but I think we'll see a Rebel Operative next. So
Ryan, I need Krennic. I just need Krennic in my life.
And that's why, because even though Han and Boba are not 2 commanders, one's an operative, one's a commander, they're still similar. So Han and Boba are still the gunslingers, very cowboy-esque. One's a gunslinger and one's a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And then the scout troopers and the commandos are spec ops. What you might see is Krennic and Death Troopers. He's a very techie guy. Lando's also a techie guy, and he doesn't really have a unit that functions well and makes sense as part of a rebel army. Like, I know he's got the Cloud City Guard, but they're not really... Like, I don't see where those fit in, honestly. So I think we can see Lando as an operative, and then, a heavy trooper that the rebels have access to. So maybe Wookiees, but then that doesn't make sense because it would be...
It could also be a vehicle. It doesn't have to be a spec ops unit or something like that, right?
Cloud speeder.
It could be a cloud speeder.
Another flyer, because it feels like the rebels are going very light, high firepower.
And what you might find that happens, and I don't know if people will like the idea of this or not, but very much how the Empire is about, like maybe they've got their cool tech toys and machines, but ultimately their troops are like stormtroopers. Heavy stormtroopers in environmental gear. Stormtroopers who are scouts and have access to stuff. It's all variations on a theme. I wonder if you wind up seeing, rebel troopers. Rebel troopers that operate in the Navy. Rebel troopers, now commandos that are basically like, the Green Berets of... And I wonder if you'll wind up seeing things like, Sullustan rebels that are specialized in this way. And, Fringe World rebels that are like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, variations on the theme as well.
I don't know. Like, if we were to say something like Sullustan rebels, I think that would be more like the Snowtroopers, like rebels and like
heavier gear.
Yeah, probably more similar to like today's explosive ordnance.
Yeah, you'd have like outer rim that are almost like closer even to a scum kind of thing, where they work with the crime syndicates to overthrow the Empire.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Could be different things like that.
the operative wasn't in the book as a
exactly
thing.
that.
So maybe we'll see
FFG, you sly bastards.
And you know what? As a company, that is a awesome move because they just surprised us saying, "Guess what? There's a new type."
Yeah, which was nice. Yeah,
and it says you can. I can't remember what they said about like operatives and how it functions in the BOBA article. If it's like one operative or two operatives,
I think every army can contain up to two, in addition to commanders.
2 operatives. So does that mean an operative is one model, or maybe the rebels won't get an operative person? Maybe they'll get an operative unit.
Right.
Which could be Wookiees, for example, because those aren't rebels per se. Those are, a different society who's kind of rebelling with them. Or maybe you see like Bothans or something like that.
Bothan Spynet.
So maybe the rebels will see an operative unit.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So we just have about 15 minutes or so left here, and I really want to ramble through these last three kind of things that I've written down here. So one of those is, of course, the Snowtroopers are out now. Now, when I had originally, I kind of intended to do this video even a bit earlier than today with just the idea of, okay, Snowtroopers, let's talk about them and how they're going to affect the meta. Now they've come out, and I was actually hoping to maybe get a game in with them before we talked about them. Wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. So this will be a little bit of a shorter topic than maybe I originally hoped. But I will say I like the idea of the Snowtroopers or the environmental troopers, whatever you want to call them. But the idea that they can move and shoot for free is like amazing, and the fact that they can move, shoot, effectively traveling speed 3 and still popping off shots.
Does it say specifically they can perform a ranged attack or they can perform an attack?
I believe it's. See, now I wish I had it right beside me. I'm gonna go with my gun instinct here though and say that it's a ranged attack.
Okay, because in my mind I was like, wait, does that mean I could move and then get a free standby order with them?
No, it has to be.
Okay, so these are purely offensive units.
Yes, yeah.
So I can see...
Which is nice, because Stormtroopers already are defensive with their red defense die, right? The ability... And now, because they're speed 1, they don't care about stuff slowing them down. They're already as slow as they can go. So they can basically just...
they get environmental...
Yeah, well, but they don't, though. That comes with Veers. You don't get those in the Snowtrooper expansion.
Oh, no?
There's one card that exists of that right now. It's in the Veers expansion.
So I assume that'll come in Leia.
It's very possible, yeah.
What card does it come with then? Just impact grenades?
For the Stormtroopers? The Snowtroopers? Yeah. Snowtroopers, you get their flamethrower upgrade, which is... that's going to be cool. The ion gun upgrade. The extra trooper upgrade, grappling hooks, impact grenades. I think that's it.
Okay. I feel like with things like the Snowtroopers... I can see them being big squads because those are the guys who are getting in close so they need the hit points.
Yeah.
And I think we'll start seeing Stormtroopers with no personnel upgrade.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to stay in back with their DLT or their rocket launcher and the Snowtroopers are taking the hits, they just need to sit back, aim, and shoot. And with having access to re-rolling 3 dice, maybe we'll see more rocket launchers because that lets you re-roll all of them. So
and now that they have now the imps have access to ion guns, I wonder if we're going to start to see instances of airspeeders being ionized off the table.
Less airspeeders.
Yeah, maybe less. Which apparently the online community hates airspeeders anyways. So
I love them. They have never failed me in a game. Every time I take them. Oh, that game, the one where Luke died first turn, the airspeeder. Because it gets its compulsory movement, aim and shoot wiped an entire squad of Stormtroopers off the table.
Yeah.
The one game I've taken a ground buzzer kills half a squad at the back.
Yeah.
So it killed 7 guys in one shot.
I think that personally people just aren't cautious enough when they fly them because it's like it's very offensive. It's got 2 great offensive weapons. It's got the best dice pool in the game right now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean aside from Vader kind of thing, but. It's like you can't just say, well, because of that, I'm going to just frontal assault you.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you still just have a white defense die and 7 health. I will destroy you if you're in the open.
It's a hammer unit. Look at Total War Games, for example.
Okay.
Like the series. You can have the big unit of heavy knights, and if you ram them head on into a unit of spearmen that's worth 1/10 of the points, the knights will die.
Yeah.
You don't do that. You flank. You have to treat it as like a cavalry unit. It goes around and flanks. and it hits them when they're out of cover.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah, and deploying it smart, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't deploy it at the concentration of enemy troops. You deploy it where it's like, oh, you only have 2 units over there? Okay, I'm going to destroy those 2 units, then come around.
But if it wasn't hard enough for players already, I think the Snowtroopers are going to make it more challenging.
Yeah.
However,
move ion gun with an aim from Veers by
with mirror matches,
yeah,
dual ATSTs, an Imperial player. I've got Snowtroopers with ion guns.
Yeah.
Who cares?
That's true.
So I think that'll be interesting as Imperial mirror matches. So Imperials might start taking less double ATSTs because of each other, which means the Rebel players will get some heat taken off their back as a result.
True. And in like a tournament setting, absolutely.
So, which we've yet to kind of see. So I think Snowtroopers are going to be a great addition, especially the flamethrower.
Well, and I'll be excited when we have our next State of the Empire in June, because at that point, not only will I have experience with the Snowtroopers, but you'll have your hands presumably on Leia and the Fleet Troopers. So we'll have a lot to talk about at that point.
Yeah, and speaking of new releases, Boba Fett.
Yeah, let's hit that up real quick.
Operatives. We kind of teased the idea of Boba Fett and all these little details.
Oddly, you know what I want to mention first about Boba Fett is I love the model.
Yeah.
It's an action pose that is the most action pose that we had in this game so far.
And he's flying.
Like Luke, who is more nimble than Vader, ironically, is in like a static holding my lightsaber pose.
Yeah.
Vader, has the billowing cape and the handout, which is cool. But it still feels stiff, but that's okay because Vader's a stiff kind of dude.
Yeah.
But this Boba Fett model with him almost in a borderline, horizontal position, feet off the ground because his jetpack's going, aiming his gun. It looks so awesome. Dynamic and great. The closest thing we've got to that right now are the Snowtroopers, just because they have all that billowing cloak behind them. That's about it,
awesome. Though. So yeah, in my opinion, fantastic model.
Yeah.
Awesome rule set. Like, the first thing that came to mind was like, this guy looks like he's fun to play. Not like, oh, he's so powerful. It's like, he looks fun to play. He has options. And I want to preamble this by saying, I swear I called like 90% of his rules when we were discussing it. When we were saying, I was trying to convince Anthony, like, it's Boba Fett 100% coming out. He's going to have jump 2, speed 3. He's going to have, 3+ weapons and arsenal because that's his
shtick. What's interesting too, with all the prediction we did about Boba Fett, we really focused on, what are his defensive capabilities, what are his offensive capabilities, what's his maneuverability. We really didn't look too much, we didn't think too much about what unique special rules he might have. And this bounty rule is huge.
Yeah.
He's a huge objective player because he creates his own objective.
Yeah.
You could be playing, and the one that comes to mind immediately is key positions, because key positions only has 3 objectives.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with Boba Fett, you could say, I'm going to hold just one of those. I'm going to let the enemy hold one. I'm going to just contest the third because Boba Fett's going to hunt down your commander and snag that bounty token, and that's my other point.
And you know what's terrifying? As a player defending against something like that, it's like, I've got 100, because you're going to take upgrades. Yeah. I've got like 180 points of awesomeness here that can careen across the table. That can get anywhere.
The predator.
And he is chasing your commander, so your commander can't do its job because
Boba Fett's got one job.
Because guess what? I'm gonna, as the Imperial player, I'm gonna tie the game. Boba kills your commander, I win. That's all I need to do. All I had to do is kill your commander to win.
No, I know. I hope, and you'll have to relay this to me once he comes out, but I hope it thematically gives that Rebel player the feeling of the stress of being hunted.
I think it is.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, there's that speed 3 bastard that can jump over everything and just...
you know what? And we've talked about Vader being like the Terminator.
Yes.
Boba Fett has the strongest defense in the game right now.
That's true.
Because, well, no, technically I guess Vader and Luke do because of their deflect rule, but they need to take a dodge token.
Yeah, there's like, he just has this.
Yeah, there's action economy. So he has surge defense.
Yeah. That's
nuts. That means he has 1 out of 6 chance to fail his save.
He's got a 2+ armor save.
Yeah, he's the 40k, he's equivalent to like 40k's Terminators. And so he's the Terminator of this. And on top of that, he has, what is it, Impervious?
Yeah, it's impervious.
Something.
Yeah.
Whatever it is if the enemy's weapon has Pierce X, he gains defense dice equal to the Pierce value to increase his chance at just nullifying your Pierce.
I have the article here too on my phone just so that we're not impervious. Yeah, that's what it is.
So he is insanely hard to kill, and you're banking on the fact that you rout this guy by just throwing enough suppression at him. And he's got some great weapons, and his cards are so unique in the idea that they only activate him, and each one is a gadget of his. So it enhances his ability to just kill.
See, and I really like this Hunter card, which if you haven't read it yet, and I just have it kind of like crazy zoomed in on the picture in the article. But the Hunter is an upgrade that Boba Fett can take, and Hunter states that when you're attacking a wounded trooper unit, and remember that ground commanders are classified as troopers. So when you're attacking a wounded trooper unit, you basically get to roll. Well, after the roll it, or says sorry, during the roll attack dice step, you may gain 1 aim token.
Yeah. So that means
you just get a free aim.
So he can move and shoot, and then gets that free aim. So he's gonna track you slowly, put 1 wound on you, and spend the rest of the game just
because there's nothing that pulls wounds off right now. So it's like there's the wounded fawn.
And I bet you. So we haven't seen all of his cards.
No,
but one of them's probably his backpack rocket, and it's probably a long range rocket. So you just throw that rocket at you and spend the rest of the game moving.
See, and this is the one. So it shows that there's sorry that we're kind of not making eye contact here, but we're trying to figure this out. There's a gear upgrade that he comes with, and it's covered, and it basically says emergency something, and it says during something if you would suffer wounds. I think it says if you would suffer more than 2 wounds, you would put it down to 2 wounds, or something like that.
It's gonna be
the first time you can avoid damage.
Rebels need that so bad. So yeah, it'll be neat. That's the thing. Instead of the medic we were talking about, where like cancel up Dex wounds once per game.
There's the tokens for the rope.
Yeah. So I think Boba Fett's the operative is going to be really.
Boba Fett's going to be really fun.
And I'm curious to see if the Rebels get a counterpart like Jyn Erso, who is a character who creates an objective on the field.
Yes, that's
because
true.
We've seen that for Armada, where Jyn Erso says, "I can steal an objective point."
That's right. I can create a victory condition, essentially. Yeah.
So, and that makes the game dynamic. So you're not only playing the game's objectives, which are thematic to a degree. You're creating this super engaging thematic play. Boba Fett hunting the commander trying to escape. And then the fact that you can run Boba and Veers and Vader because the operatives don't count towards the thing.
That's right.
Oh.
And the other thing that's going to really shake it up is the other announcement, which are Imperial Scout Troopers on foot. Very interesting. Surge. You know what?
Defense.
This is what we wanted to find out, right?
I'm telling you, they're only surge defense because they get 2 black dice in the offense, and if they were surge hit, they would be broken.
You're right. They are surge defense for sure.
So Fleet Troopers getting 2 white dice on the offense was a big deal.
What is low profile?
That is you gain
the commandos
an extra.
have that too, right?
You gain an extra cover.
So light cover becomes heavy cover, essentially.
And I think no cover becomes light cover.
No, it says well defending if you have light cover. Then you can increase
so light cover becomes heavy. They have Scout 1, so they get to perform a move 1 before the game starts. Rebels get a Scout 2, which is interesting because they have longer range guns and more accurate guns.
But these holdout blasters, though,
they're pretty great. If you let a unit of Fleet Troop or Scout Troopers get in range, like the big squad, they will tear you to shreds through volume of fire. However, they're not about rerolls, so they're going to be moving and shooting.
Here's an interesting point that I didn't look at before. In looking at the Scout Troopers upgrade bar, see that symbol there?
Yeah.
That's the same symbol Boba Fett can take, so they can take Hunter.
Yeah, that's so pretty can insane. Commandos.
That's pretty crazy.
Those sniper teams taking
that's very interesting. They have a grenade slot, they have a gear slot, they have a comm slot.
So they can take comms
and
jammer.
Extra man. Well, that's right. Because if you just take them as troopers, there's no heavy weapon they're taking, but they have the alternate mode, which you can grab that.
So I think they're very very well balanced with the Rebels. The Rebels get fewer shots, but at longer range and more accurate. The Imperials get more shots, shorter range, less accurate.
The thing I'm most excited for with them, in all honesty, is the fact that they lay traps.
Yeah.
They have sonic displacers or something that they basically can place around the field to muck with the enemy's movement.
Yeah.
And
the
I don't know if
rebels
it'll do
have demo
damage or not.
charges.
Yeah, I think.
So I'm curious to see how they'll work out.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting.
One's more of a slowing tool. Maybe the rebels is like blow up terrain features.
Yes. Yeah. That'd be cool.
We'll see. Anyways, I think we had a lot of positive comments about this game when it first came out, and I think from a gameplay perspective, Fantasy Flight's doing a great job.
Yeah, they're still positive.
From a logistics perspective,
it needs to up its game.
They need to fix it. The models are nice.
Yeah.
The gameplay's fun. The terrain's dynamic.
Yeah.
They have a living rule set. Everything's great. They just need to get their releases.
Yes, totally. So we have to wrap and I might even be pushing it with 5 minutes. But the last thing I wanted to talk about today, which we touched upon slightly last time, I think it's become more relevant this time around, especially with the way some people are talking about it online on the Facebook group and that kind of thing. But the idea of min-maxing units of troops. The idea of saying, I'm going to take my commander, 6 squads of 4-man troops, and then whatever else. And people are loving this. And I don't see it. I don't like it. I'll be honest. Like I personally, my personal thing is to go with maybe 4 troops, where at least half of those 4 troops are completely decked out with bells and whistles, with the rest kind of halfway there. And as long as they each have a specific role to play, like, and again, that might change now that there's the Snowtroopers, where I really liked your idea of saying, hey, you just take a unit of Stormtroopers with a DTL, and they just sit back and just shoot the DTL because your Snowtroopers are the assault guys.
You know why that's an option? Because now you have unit variation. It's like, what is the job of your Stormtroopers or Rebel Troopers? Well, grab objectives and shoot.
Yeah.
Now that you have Snowtroopers, you'll have Commandos, Scout Troopers, and you'll have regular ones. It's like, okay, what are my Scout Troopers doing? Well, they have pistols, so they're going to get in close and they're going to flank and they're just going to rapid fire guys. Or they're going to be a sniper team. What are your Snowtroopers going to do? Well, I gave them an ion gun, so I think their jobs are going to be contingent on like what weapon you gave them.
Yeah.
So give them grenades, they're going to assault. Give them flamethrower, they're going to assault. Give them the ion cannon. Maybe they're still a small unit and they're going hunting for vehicles like ATRTs. And then your squad of Stormtroopers, minimum squad with a rocket launcher and scopes.
Yeah.
No scopes, so they can reroll.
But this idea of just a minimum squad of 4 guys, I just don't see the benefit. Like, I think people's logistical ideas is, well, that's a lot of activations, and I can throw out a lot of dice, and that means I can get a lot of suppression on you.
Yeah.
And people are going suppression crazy, which I don't get, because up until like 3 weeks ago, Vader just said we don't care about suppression.
Well, not only that, but vehicles. So if I'm a Rebel player and I take 3 ATRTs with laser cannons, rotary cannons, or even flamethrowers. They just run up and kill infantry. They don't care about suppression.
Well, that's the thing.
Dual ATST with grenade launchers will wipe out a unit of 4 guys.
Well, that's exactly why. That's exactly why I go with concussion grenade launcher, because everyone's all troop happy, and it's like, all right, well, they come stock with the ability for impact 3 and 6 dice. So if I just throw this grenade launcher on, if any of your squads are problematic, it's just like you're done. Like,
it's ridiculous. So I think going minimum squads of 4 isn't necessarily the solution. I think if you're going to run squads for the sake of running squads, make it a 5-man squad. Get the extra hit point. It's worth it, and go cap an objective. And you know what? Maybe their job is, you take 1 or 2 squads of them. Their job is to get the objective. Their hit points to get the objective. But you need units with some heavy weapons or some support.
And some extra hit points.
Rebels need to take ion cannons.
You
need it. Even against the speeder bikes, those things are deadly. And the ion cannons, still 2 red dice. You could punch a squad with those harder than any other weapon they have access to. So I don't get it. And ATRTs, I used to hate those, and I'm starting to come around. Especially the laser cannons. You keep them at range 4, and if a unit of Stormtroopers with the DTL shooting at it, it's like, all right, your squad of Stormtroopers isn't grabbing an objective, and the laser cannon puts out more firepower and can get more crits, so just ignores cover, and will beat it in the end. So I think all infantry isn't quite the way to go. You need to find a balance, and a lot of people are saying, oh, vehicles are super weak. It's like, well, vehicles ignore suppression. Huge.
And usually ignore hits.
I tried.
I don't understand.
So
I feel like our meta might just be like this anomaly. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
we start inviting people from different cities to come here and play just to see. But
I'll give an example when you're talking about vehicles are immune to hits. I had a squad of 5 stormtroopers because I had a list. I was like, oh, I'll go troop happy. 1 ATST. My squad shoots at it, 0 damage. Next turn, 0 damage. Next turn, 1 point.
Yeah.
And that's not because he was making his saves. It's because they couldn't produce a crit. It's a 1 in 8 chance.
So we got to wrap it up here. So I'm going to just end with one question for you. What is your #1 wish list item off the top of your head?
Me?
Yeah. What do you want to see in the game?
For Rebels specifically, or just
whatever?
Period? I would like to see them either create more rule sets around terrain, or kind of almost. I hate saying putting players in a box, but telling people like these are your terrain types because they've already kind of done it with barricades and releasing barricades. I want to see them streamline terrain, and I want to see them release more articles on terrain instead of just the models, and I want to see them put more thoughts into terrain.
And I agree with you, but also I should have specified. I meant like in game.
Oh, like model, like units
piece of equipment, unit type, model, whatever. What do you want to see?
Wookiees, 100%.
You want to hear the Wookiees?
I've been preaching this since the game came out. It's like, oh, Legion's coming out. Can't wait to run a army of Wookiees.
Right. So here, I'll tell you what mine is. Vehicle transports.
Oh, I don't think we'll see flying ones.
I don't need flying ones. I just want a vehicle that I can put a unit of stormtroopers in as a delivery method. It doesn't have to be super strong. Doesn't have to have a ton of I just want a metal box on wheels. So I can be like, I'm getting these guys over there. And how great would that be for breakthrough?
Okay, what would it be though?
Juggernaut.
No, those things are like it would be this on the table.
I know. But something to that, speeders, like hover speeders, like Luke's speeder in Thing basically carries like 4 to 5 people.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe it'll say limit X amount of units, so you can't put a squad with a heavy weapon in it. Maybe it'll say 4 guys.
Yeah, it'll be like a capacity of 4 or 5, and it has like speed 3, and it probably wouldn't have armor, but it could have a compulsory move.
No surge defense.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I think it would just be really, very cool to see ways to increase the mobility of the game. But
then how do you get to like if the vehicle moves, can the infantry? Do they use a movement to get out, or do they just pop out and then use their movement to go? You get into some logistics.
That's the benefit of being in my position, Ryan, is that I don't have to write the rules.
Yeah, but it's like Russian nesting dolls.
Yeah. Which we're used to, right, from Armada.
Yeah, Radis, so much fun. But yeah, I think that would be a good addition.
Yeah. No, so that's good. Well, thanks for listening to us ramble. Hopefully we've been good background noise for your workstation or your painting or while you're playing a game of Legion. Otherwise, thanks for actually paying attention to us. But hopefully you enjoyed that. If you have kind of any questions for us or maybe additional topics that you'd like to see discussed, feel free to leave them in the comments. And we'll catch you next month for our 3rd episode of State of the Empire. All right.